Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. Today we are jumping off of our last video where we finally got Klipper installed on our MCU and we were actually getting into the configuration. We kind of breezed over a couple things. Next couple videos in the series are going to be relatively short videos. We're going to start off with the first one where we're going to give an overview of the printer.config file, a little bit more in depth than last time, and kind of what you're going to see when you first turn on your printer and what you're going to have for config file to modify that to get a printer that is semi-functional. All right, let's jump right into it. All right, so I made up this new scene in my OBS. Hopefully it works out. Let's start off here. So when you first start off your printer, you're going to wind up with a screen similar to this one. The only thing that's done right now with my printer.config file is I did point, we did this in the last video, I did point Klipper towards the MCU with the serial address that had. Really brief overview when we get into the file in a second. So let's look at the screen real quick. We have our errors right here, and this is actually going to be paramount for what we're doing today. And paramount actually moving forward if you wind up with errors. Klipper is very good at telling you what your errors are and very good at telling you how to fix those errors. It won't fix them for you, but it'll tell you kind of what you need to do to fix those. So that being said, I do want to look at a couple things on this screen before we leave it. I actually, now that I think of it, one of these things was mentioned to me by Woody, and that's the emergency stop, which is right over here, very important. Today is Woody's birthday, so happy birthday, Woody. Woody just finally got his printer up and running, pushing plastic, so he will be getting a serial number, I think today or tomorrow for his birthday, so congrats, Woody. Yeah, so anyways, Woody basically sent me first printer he's built, first printer he's ever built, first time he's ever done 3D printing. He actually had to use this emergency stop button. He had a belt that kind of got jammed up, and he really emphasized on, good for everybody to know that that button's there. So there's an emergency stop here in Mainsail. There's also one in Fluid. I'll show you that one right here too. That one's right here in Fluid. I have Fluid instance going here for another printer. So on either one of those, you do have an emergency stop. Good to know, right? Yeah, we won't get too far into the interface on that. Let's jump right into that config file. So to find the config file in Mainsail, you gotta go to Machine. And then up here, you'll have configs, config examples, docs, and logs. Logs are very good too, if you need to do some troubleshooting. We're gonna stay right in the config area. We already have a printer.config file in here, okay? And here it is. And like I said, the only thing I've done is I've gone ahead and I've put my device information in here so we can talk to Klipper. Now, where did that come from? That came from the LDO printer rev a config file, which I will put a link in the information about this video down below eventually when it's uploaded. But basically, starting off of a file, you could start this from scratch. I highly suggest you don't do that. But I just want to show you what this was. Okay, so once you get into these pages here, one thing you want to do is you have a save and close, save and restart. 99% of the time you're going to do save and restart because the changes you want to make, you want to take effect. If you don't hit save and restart, the changes you make will not take effect. They will save in the file, but they won't take effect till you restart the printer. So let's exit out of this real quick and let's go back to that error. So the error at hand, this is the first error that we're getting. It probably be the first error you get, but I can't guarantee it because everybody's a little bit different, which is why I'm doing these videos kind of in little bashes of videos because everybody's going to need a little bit different information. I don't want people to have to sit through a 3-hour video on configuring Klipper in Mainsail. So yeah, so it says option position max and section stepper Z must be specified. Okay, so we are looking for stepper Z and position max. So what I suggest you do is you go ahead and select, right click, hit copy on that, okay, like we just did. Go back to machine, again, go into my printer.config file here, okay. A lot of great information up top here that you can leave or take out, it's up to you. Anything with a hash in front of it or a pound symbol in front of it is for you, not the printer. So you could delete it if you wanted to, but a lot of it's good information to have. You can delete it once you have everything up and running the way you want, just make your file a little bit smaller. Not that it makes that much of a difference. All right, so how do we find that? I'm gonna hit Control F on my keyboard. And once I do that, I'm gonna have this find come up on here on the bottom. And now I'm going to hit Control V to paste in position max, okay? So I'm gonna hit next here to find it. And here we go. We're finding position max stuff here, okay? Under XY stepper settings. Now it wasn't asking for XY stepper settings, but that's where it brought us first. So let's hit next again, and next again. It's gonna bring us to us a bunch of times. And right now we're looking at stepper, right, motor connected. And we're still under the XY. So let's go ahead and hit again. And then we're gonna loop back around to that, by the way. But I just wanted to show you how to basically go through and solve these errors, because one of the biggest questions people have is when they have these errors, how do they find them, how do they resolve them? On a new printer, that error is usually caused by not uncommenting things about your build. There are certain things that are default for your build, one of which is these sections here that say uncomment below for X build. So basically for a 250 build, 300 build, or 350 build. Now, if you're building something that's not one of those three, say you decide to build a 400 because you're going all out, or a 500 because you're just playing crazy, you'll have to use these use modifications of these numbers based on the size of your printer. And these numbers basically are telling the printer how big it is. So now that we're able to find that position max for that right there, I'm gonna hit save and restart. Okay, we'll go back to the dashboard again. We still have an error, but it's not bad because now it's telling us that option points in section quad gantry level must be specified. So we have a different error now. So we fixed the error that we had before, but we have another error. Now I could go through and find this one too, but before we do that, let's go back into that printer config file. Okay, and let's look for the uncomment comments. So I'm gonna hit Control F again for find, and I'm going to type in uncomment. And the reason we hit uncomment is because I want to go through and find all the errors that the file is telling me already to uncomment certain things based on the size of my printer. So let's go through and fix all of that first. So right here it says uncomment for 300 build. Mine's a 300 build. Again, 250, 350. Yours is different. You're not gonna be able to do this. You're going to have to write them in yourself, but you're going to have all this information. So I have a 300 build. So let's go ahead and uncomment these two, this section. And that was for the XY. I'm gonna hit next. And now it drops me down to here. This is what we got here. This is again, this time is for the A stepper. So we're gonna uncomment this and this. And then we're gonna hit next again. We're gonna find the next uncomments. Right here, we just did this one for the Z stepper. And that's basically how high the printer can go, is 260. Let's keep going though. Let's see if we find some more that say uncomments. Right here, uncomment for 250 build. Ours is a 250 build, 300 build. So this is gantry corners, okay? So we need to define our gantry corners. So let's uncomment our gantry corners. And then anything with a single hash, we're going to get rid of under this section for uncommenting. If it has a double, we're going to leave that there, okay? So double, leave, single, get rid of, okay? So let's go next. Let's find some more uncomments. We don't have a 350, we know that. Some macros now. This macro is for the G32. Let's see here, uncomment this for 300 build. So let's go here, uncomment that, okay? And next again, and I think we're looping around now. Cool. Okay, so we've gone ahead, we've uncommented all the individual items in Klipper for basically the X, Y, Z on the printer, and some points on the printer for that G32. So let's hit save and close again. Go back to the dashboard again. And we still have an error. So this time it's saying failed automated restart MCU Well, let's try that again. I hear my fan coming on. Uh-oh. That's kind of where we wound up in the last video. Going back a little bit on this one. Cannot update MCU config as is and shut down underlying issue, firmware restart. So what could be happening here? Well, this is normally due to not having your thermistors set up. So there's one huge red flag in Klipper, and that is it not knowing what temperature your parts and pieces are. So if it doesn't know how hot your bed is and it doesn't know how hot your hot end is, it's not going to run. It basically is a safety shutdown system, and that basically is first and foremost. So let's go back into our printer.config file. Okay, and let's do Control F again. And this time let's type in thermistor. Okay. Or not. I thought we could find it with thermistor. Let's see here. We want to find where our thermistor pins are located. I could have sworn thermistor would do it for us, but let's look here. Sense resistor, stealth chop, that's all for steppers. Let's see here. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's type in extruder. Let's go find that. And we have our pin here, and we have our sensor type, and this is for the bed heater. Now, let me confirm my bed here. Now, my bed isn't from the LDO kit. My bed was actually an aftermarket part that I bought because I got the Mandela Rose bed with a different Kinovo system on it. So let's just confirm that that's the proper sensor for that. And I'm going to actually work off here on another screen while we're doing that. Let's do this. And I want sensor. All right. All right, it looks like the bed heater that I'm using on this, which is the Kinovo, is actually an NTC 100K. So let's go ahead and change that. And again, I'm doing copy and pasting here. I get the information and basically just want to do a web search for whatever your heater bed is. If you got the LDO, this is already going to be correct for you, but I need that there. And the other thing we want to look at is our extruder, which should be, yep, right above here. And on this particular build, we're using the Fadus Rapido. And let's confirm, because I don't believe that's correct for the Rapido. But let me get the proper nomenclature for it. Well, maybe it is. Nope, there it is. It is the PT1000 on the one I'm using. And those can change. I think there's a couple different ones that they can use on the Rapido, depending on whether or not you get the high flow, high temp one. So let's go ahead and change that as well. Now the pin should be correct already, so I'm not going to look at the pins here. So let's hit save and restart. Let's go back to the dashboard again. All right, it's in shutdown again. Shutdown, something out of whack. Okay, so I believe our bed is correct, and I know our extruder is correct. So what else could it be? Let's see here. Let's check our pins. So again, we're going to use Control Find. Let's go back down to the extruder. And let's see here, update value calibration. We have to do all that, but we're actually worried more about the temperature stuff here. So where is that? Okay, so we have our sensor type of PT1000. That is correct. That is correct there. And let me see here. Four. Let's see. Okay, so one other thing we did on this is we switched our heater pin to our extruder heater, our cartridge heater, because of the 105 watts. So let's invert these two. So right now, that one's PA1 and this one's PA2. So let's make this one PA2 and make this one PA1. That really shouldn't cause us this issue, but let's see where that brings us. Still going to shut down. Let's go ahead and do a complete hard reset at this point. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to do a complete system reboot. Right over there. And it's going to take a couple moments for it to come through. So, while that's doing that, let's talk a little bit about Klipper. I should be looking at the camera. Klipper and Mainsail versus Fluid. So Mainsail, which is what we're using here today, is much the same as Fluid in terms of what you get for a GUI. There are some small changes in the back end. There are some small changes in the front end. But basically, it's a 50-50 switch. Originally, Fluid to me was a little bit nicer than Mainsail, but I've since switched over to Mainsail because there seems to be a little bit more happening with Mainsail than Fluid. It seems to be a little bit more, a little bit more updating happening with it. So, all right, we look like we're ready to start up here. All right, so let's go look at, so it has to be an issue with one of our temperatures. I know it's not the extruder, I know it's not the bed. The only thing other than those two it could be is the chamber probe, which I am not using currently because I don't think there's a huge need for chamber probe. I don't have one hooked up. I bet that's our issue. So let's find, again, Control F on the keyboard, and let's look up chamber. And let's see, additional sensors right here. Thermistor, temperature sensor, temp, all those things. So since we're not using any additional sensors here, which we might in the future, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to comment these out. Now I might add a chamber sensor in the future, more for safety than anything else. But for right now, I'm not using one, and I bet that's our issue. Perfect. Okay, so now we're not getting a Klipper error that basically is killing the printer. That's basically sending everything to no-no land. Now we have specifics here that we need to set up. Now, if you were setting this up and you're doing it manually, there are two ways that you could do this. Option number one is to add these missing configuration items directly in your printer.config file. The other way to do it is to add them using an outside config file. So the way that you would add sometimes macros is by basically including them into your file, and you want to put those near the top. And what it's going to do is basically call out or reach out to that other config file, pull that information into it, and then continue down the file, pull the information from the other file, and keep on going down that file. Because basically the printer reads down that whole file when it's running. So it's looking for a virtual SD card, which is what you're going to use, or what the printer is going to use to basically store files that it's printing, and you can reprint. A pause and resume and that's basically so the printer knows how to pause and how to resume a print. It's pretty self-explanatory. And the macro for pause, which you can't have without pause and resume, and a macro for resume, which is going to get called upon for pause resume. And then a cancel print, which basically allows you to cancel print without doing an emergency stop and dumping everything out. But basically repark your printer, all those types of things. Now, if you are using Mainsail, and that's what this is, the best and easiest way of doing this, and let me get it up on the screen here, is, and let me see the best way to bring this down. Let's just copy this and paste it in. So right here on the Mainsail GitHub for this, or the Git, they have their own set of macros that you can use. Now you can bring these into your printer using some commands right here. And you can basically have it auto update. There's a bunch of stuff you can do. But what you can do also, and since we already did a Mainsail configuration, our printer already has most of the stuff already in it. So all we really need to do is go back into our machine here and check to see that we have a mainsail.cfg, which is right here. And so we want to basically include this file into our printer. So that's our next step right now, since we did the install the way that we did it. Again, now if you didn't do the install the way that we did it in our previous video, you're going to either A, want to go through and do it the way they did it, or B, I will show you real quick, you're going to want to create a new file. You're going to want to go into that, into the, let's see here, where is it? Initial comment, let's see here, this one? Nope, not that one. This one? Like Klipper, yes. You're going to want to go to raw. You're going to want to hit Control A, that selects all, Control C to copy it, and then you would paste it into the file. Again, we installed it a certain way, so it actually already put that mainsail.cfg file in here, so we don't need to do that. But it should be relatively close to what was in that file, and we could paste that in here right now if we made a new file, named it mainsail.config. Okay? All right, so much fun, right? So what we need to do is we need to include that mainsail.config file, and we're going to do that in our printer.config file. And the best way to do that for me is directly after the printer information, before we get too far into this. So what we're going to do is basically do a square bracket and type in include mainsail.cfg, and then close that out. So now basically as this reads down, it's going to see, okay, this is the MCU. That's how it's connected to the Raspberry Pi. This is the type of printer we have. It's a Core XY. We have some things here that we'll tune with later. And then we're going to include the Mainsail config. So again, we're going to hit save and reset. And restart again. There we go. So at this point we have a working printer, but I wouldn't quite work it yet. So what we're going to do now is close out this video. I'm going to say thank you for watching. I'm going to tell you that we're going to have another video that we're going to continue this configuration in. But again, I don't want to make these too long. This stuff's kind of boring. I think everybody finds it boring. So hopefully little videos will make it a little bit less boring to watch. By all means, if you do need this information and you're looking for something specific, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. Join the channel if you haven't yet. Check out the whole backlog for this whole build if you want. And I also got an older video. If you're building a Voron with Afterburner for some reason, you're building an old Voron 2.4 non-R2. I got that too. So I will catch you next time where we continue to configure our Klipper instance and Mainsail, and I'll see you next time.